So we actually got the new 4060 that came in, however, the actual computer stopped working. So we're going to have to tear this apart and break it down. The problem that we were having was that these fans would blow. So this is our tester rig to test all of our GPUs on before we put them on rigs. And it's actually broken. So we're going to go in and fix it. So we've taken it all apart. This is just pretty bog standard in terms of the parts, just because we have minimal parts for mining or just testing. So I know it's not like as fancy as normal testing rigs, but I'll just run you through it. So obviously CPU fan, we're going to blow out all the dust and all. We got the RAM sticks here. I think they're DDR3 maybe. They're very old. We've got this, which is our power on cable. If you can see at the bottom here, this is to actually power on the whole computer. This is the motherboard plug-in. So just pretty standard ones. We're working with the EVGA 850, I believe, G3. This is a gold power supply, so pretty efficient. Up to, I believe you only lose 80%. That's what the whole rule is, depending on what kind of power supply you get. So if you get a platinum one, then it's going to be a bit higher in terms of the efficiency and not that much lost in energy. And we got our 3 GPUs that we were going to have on the test rig. So normally we got the 1080 just because it's good, it's powerful. We can run a bunch of stuff on that. Also like the game on the side. We got our new 4060, which we just got in, which is going to go on different rigs. However, obviously we didn't get it to work. The thing that was the problem that we were looking for is that the power didn't actually pull through on this. And we wanted to make a video of the 4060 testing and it wasn't showing the power wattage. So we had to break down everything and that ended up basically spinning the fans on this and it turned off. This is an external fan that you would actually have, I don't know, blowing within the computer, but it has to be plugged in. This is how the motherboard works. It has to be plugged into the motherboard for it to actually run. We have our SSD there. I think it's like 1 terabyte or something like that. Bunch of risers. We have here, which is the actual CPU power. So this is going to be one of those building videos where we just build out the rig as we would. So we're going to put 2 of these on. I believe we're going to start with the 1080 because that one actually runs more powerfully and it's probably going to give us the best bet at actually powering on. We obviously need to have it plugged into a HDMI. So we'll get this all wired up and I'll show you where these all go as we're going along. So first thing to start with, obviously, is the motherboard power. So that's already plugged in just because we couldn't unplug it. It's really hard to get out actually. You'll find that with motherboards is that it's really hard to actually take those out. The next thing that we need to do is obviously plug in our actual on switch. So this was a teardown from an old computer. We just took it all out and you kind of need this to actually power it on. So all it is just this, I believe that's 9 pins. It just lines up with those pins that you see there. So let's just check we got the right configuration here. And you just click it in there. So that's just for the on switch. It's not going to do anything right now. You kind of need to be careful because look how many pins there are that we're not using. We're not using any of these pins at the back. We're not using these pins here. Pretty much everything is not used when we're doing one of these rigs just because we don't actually need to use them. And then next what we want to do is we want to make sure that the CPU power is plugged in. So you have the CPU socket, which is here. And this only takes 4 pin, I believe, so not that powerful of a CPU, but we can just click that into there. It should click in. So that's clicked into there. We need to actually blow all this dust off first, so let's blow that off and then let's actually finish off. So what I've found is that the best way, because we don't actually look after this rig too well, which in, you know, in hindsight we should, is to, because this kind of dust is built up a lot. So what you do is you get a Q-tip and you basically just rub in there and then you blow out the excess with compressed air. So we're going to go through, do our best with the Q-tips, and then we're going to go in with the compressed air. So you can see that we got most of the stuff from the outside with the Q-tips there. And what we're going to do now is a little trick is using isopropyl alcohol. We're just going to go in and actually clean around it, because if you didn't know, it's not going to affect your computer components as long as you let it dry off. And isopropyl alcohol dries off really quickly compared to water. In theory, you could clean it with water, but you're going to have to wait until everything is basically bone dry. And, you know, that brings some complications. So we're going to use isopropyl alcohol, clean this all up, and we'll see the finished version of that. And then we'll move on to the GPU cleaning as well. So as we can see here, we've actually got it cleaned up relatively nicely. You know, there's not as much dust. There's some side dust on there, but we can take that off later on. But we've got it cleaned up from what it previously was, which obviously looked very dusty. So that could have been causing one of the problems. Normally, the dust isn't going to cause a problem necessarily. As long as the fans spin, then you should be pretty much all right. However, I was just wondering if anything was short-circuiting down here, which wouldn't probably be the problem. But we got to eliminate all the problems. So now that we've done that, we can actually do the GPUs. So this one's relatively okay. This 4060 is obviously new, so it's pretty much got minimal dust on it. This 1050 Ti is not going to be put on the rig, so we're just going to leave that one out. We're going to be trying it, as I said, with the 1080, but if not, we'll try it with the 4060. So now we need to hook up the SSD and this fan as well. We need to clean this, just because this is dusty as well, and then we'll move it over to the power supply. So let's get those plugged in, and then we'll show you how we're going to test out if it works or not. So I just want to actually show you guys how to actually plug this in. So this is going to be an old one, this external fan. This is normally like, so you can see we've cleaned it up a little bit. It doesn't really matter about cleaning that, but this is an old motherboard, so we plug in the fan just so it turns on. So that's using external fan, but we just put it directed at the CPU just so it stays a little bit cooler. And then with the SSD, now if you're crypto mining, normally you're going to be using a USB just to boot up Windows or something like that. However, with the SSD, we're just going to actually plug it into here because it's got all of our data on it from obviously videos and stuff like that. All you do is you just plug it into this white one here. You can choose any of them, but the white one will do. You just have that there. And then the power supply that we're using, obviously this is going to plug into the power supply, and we have our SATA there. So we have SATA, then we have the motherboard, the fan here that we just connected, that's just going to spin on its own, and then the CPU power supply. Obviously we've got the RAM in there. The only thing that we need now is to actually plug in the power supply into all of these, and then we need to actually put a GPU on there. What I'm actually thinking right now as I'm making this video is that maybe we should put the GPU on here and see if it starts up. So we might put the 1050 on here just because it's a smaller shroud and it's not going to get in the way of the RAM or anything. When I tried the 4060 on here, it actually got in the way of this RAM. So obviously this motherboard wasn't built to handle GPUs that size or that thickness. So we might put the 1050 on here, start it up, and then we'll go from there. So as we can see here, this is just like literally our Frankenstein rig at the moment. So this is the fan that you would normally have. We're just going to put that to the side there. And I've just put it on this table just so we can test it out. We've got the wall socket there. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the power supply. I'm thinking maybe put the power supply under here and then everything external like the CPU and stuff on top just to try get it to run, and then we'll see how we go from there. So let's get the power supply plugged in and let's put the GPU on there. What I forgot to mention with the 1050 is that it doesn't actually have a power supply, so there's no 6-pin or 8-pin that you need to plug in. It's just strictly pulling power through the motherboard. So we're actually going to put that on there, and then we're going to monitor how it runs, if it even starts up at all. So as you can see here with the power supply, we've got the motherboard power supply. There's not that good lighting on it. So as you can see here with the power supply, I had to put the light on there. We've got the SATA, we've got the motherboard, the two motherboard ones. We have the CPU there. All we need now is to plug in the GPU on the top here, and then we get it hooked up through a HDMI onto a computer screen, and hopefully it turns on. If not, then you know we have a problem. So here we have it. So we've got the GPU sat into the motherboard. This is the fan that was on top. We're just going to move that to, let's just position it so it blows air into the CPU for now, because we're only just starting it up. So we've got SATA. We have the monitor plugged in, so that's going through the GPU there. Hopefully this starts up now that we've kind of reset everything. The only thing that I didn't try when it wasn't turning on properly was putting a GPU into the actual motherboard. Everything should be fine. We've got a mouse and a keyboard plugged in. So let's actually give it a whirl and see if we get the same problem and see if we fixed it. So we have our button here. Let's just check that the monitor's on. Yes. And let's give it a whirl. Oh, never mind. I didn't turn the actual power supply on. Okay. That needs to be on as well. Right. Now, take two. Okay, perfect. I was wondering why it was making so much noise, because the fan is actually blowing. Ow. Okay. I actually just caught my hand in that. Ow. Oh yeah, that's gonna bleed. Okay, so we got it actually working right now. Perfect. So I think the problem that we're having mainly is that it's not actually reading GPU power. So there was nothing wrong with the board or anything like that. Maybe the BIOS settings was not letting it start up with a riser plugged into it. So the only problem that we didn't address was this GPU sitting on here. So we didn't have a GPU sitting on here. If you've seen any of my previous videos, we had them all on risers. So I wanted the 4060 for testing, and it wouldn't show up with any power, as in it wouldn't show how much wattage it was pulling, and I thought it was to do with the power supply. However, it might not be. So let's actually give it a test on the computer, and let's run up a mining program. Maybe we'll mine some Raven coin or something like that. And I believe that this is over 3 gigabytes, I think, of RAM. So we should be fine with that. And let's actually give it a whirl and see if we can actually start mining, and it shows the power draw. So here we obviously have it on our home screen that we normally have. Let's just actually click into, maybe let's go with a BZ miner. Let's see what we can do with this. We'll click into this. We'll go to a mining program like BZ miner, and then we'll input some overclocks. I believe that this one was actually set up for the 4060 that we had testing, so I'm gonna have to go into this. The reason I'm not recording is because I haven't got any of the mics set up, so it might be a little bit different. I've just realized that we don't have Ethernet plugged in either, so we're not going to be able to mine. So let me get that plugged in first, and then we'll get back to mining. So we've got the Ethernet plugged in there, so we should be able to, if we just go here. Sorry, this is shaky. This was for the 4060, so what we want to do is just get rid of all these, and then we want to OC fan speed just to see if we're getting power. Don't put a power limit on it. We'll just run the fans for the 1050 Ti at, let's just go with 95, just so it doesn't overheat. That should be it. We're mining a lithium, so we should be good. And we'll see if we've actually fixed the problem of power draw. So let's enable this. Sorry, this is reset as well. We need to enable it as an administrator, as we do in all the videos. Oh, it's already applied. Okay, never mind. It's just not showing up. Right, let's double click this. It should ask. Yeah, good. Take this out. Okay, that is not good. That is not good at all. Still mined though. Okay, we're still having the same problem though that we're seeing. If you can see that, that was the problem that we were trying to address in the first place. This zero power draw. So the reason that we were trying to address this was that obviously we're testing out the 4060, but it wasn't drawing any power, so we couldn't see how much power we were drawing, obviously for overclocking and stuff like that. So we still have not fixed this problem. So I know this is kind of like a failed video because we didn't actually fix the problem, but maybe you guys can leave some comments below on how to actually fix this. I've never had this problem before with mining. It's never been a problem. And the only one that will actually show up is the 1080 Ti on this. It will actually show the power draw of the 1080 Ti. No other GPU shows power draw apart from that 1080 Ti. And I'm thinking maybe it's actually locked to the motherboard in some sort of way. I don't know if that's actually possible, how it's not reading data, but it might be locked to the motherboard or something like that. It might be locked to only show power from one GPU, which I'm very skeptical of, obviously. So we'll plug in the 1080 Ti and see if that will actually show us power draw. We'll put it on the actual motherboard, obviously by there, and we'll see if that gives us power draw as well. So let's test that one out. So just like last time, we got the 1080 Ti. As you can see, there's a massive difference between the 1050 and the 1080 Ti. So we've got that plugged in, we've got the power supply running through. It should actually start up now, but we might have the same problem where it just spins. We'll check it out now, moment of truth. Okay, and what I'm inclined to believe is that, I keep forgetting to actually move this, don't get caught again. Oh God. Good. It's just blowing air out. So it's actually started up, but we're not getting any signal. Oh, I haven't got the HDMI plugged in. Okay, let's get that plugged in. Perfect. Should start up now. Right, okay. Well, that's not good, I guess. At least it did start up though. Let's turn it off and let's try see if it starts up again. But actually reads it this time. And we should see it power on here. Come on, there we go. So that at least worked. We've got the 1080 Ti obviously powered at the top there, so that's gone into the power supply down there, and we can see now if it's actually going to start up. So there's a lot of things that happen in cryptocurrency mining. Obviously this is one of them. You've got to learn how to actually, you know, take apart a computer, put it back together. There's a lot of less components when it comes to crypto mining. You don't need as much as a normal computer would, just because there's loads of other things on there that you wouldn't necessarily need to plug in. And obviously that is stripped from an actual computer that was used before. However, we're looking like we're actually getting in here. Let's log in and let's run up a mining program. So we're back in here, and obviously we're just going to run the same mining file that we set up earlier for that 1050. This actually took a while. It recovered Windows twice or something like that. And now the reason that I thought it was obviously that I went to at the first place was actually replacing Windows. So did that full reset, didn't work for this power supply or this power displaying. And for some reason it only worked with the 1080 Ti, as I said before. So let's just run this real quick and let's see if the 1080 Ti is going to run and show the actual power. So let's see here. Is it going to ask for our administrator pop-up? Okay, cool. And the fan should start blowing on soon. So it says there, no mining device detected. So maybe our GPU isn't recognized, or the 1080 isn't recognized. Let's go on device manager. We should have checked this first. This is all part of the troubleshooting kind of method, I guess. Let's see if our 1080 Ti is actually showing up anywhere. Because normally what happens, okay, so it's got a little warning sign on it. What does this mean? Scan for hardware changes. Let's look. Go on properties, reinstall device. Okay, never mind, it's just gonna reboot up, of course, and now it shows that it's good. Okay, now it should be able to mine. Let's have a look. Let's see if the power is fixed for this. If it's not fixed for this, then it may be something. No, it is drawing power. Okay, so this one's drawing power. Now, this is the problem that I'm having. Why isn't the 4060 showing the power either? Because obviously we just found a solution there for a lithium, but this one's drawing 55 watts, which it should be drawing slightly higher than that actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, it should be drawing around 100 or maybe even 110, 20. Let's see if this updates now. That's good mega hash though, that's pretty average. Okay, we're pulling 100 watts there. Fans at 94 at 38 degrees. Let's now put on the 4060 and see if we have the same problem, and that's probably going to be the last thing that we put on. If we still have the same problem with the 4060, then we know that it's something to do with that GPU connecting into the motherboard, and it's locking it for some reason and not displaying the power draw from any GPU apart from that one. I've never had this problem before on any of the rigs. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this problem, but please let me know in the comments if you had this problem and you know how to fix it. I've tried basically everything. Let's plug in that 4060 and see if we get the power draw for it. Okay guys, so we have the 4060 plugged in. Now this is our last attempt at actually doing this. If it's not fixed, then we'll just check hash rates on the 4060 until we come up with a solution for this. It might have to be a new PC. We've tried BIOS resetting, all that stuff. We've even looked at the PCIEs. They're okay for the BIOS, so let's give this a whirl, see if it turns on. And I did the same thing, I didn't plug the power supply on. Now remember, when you're dealing with stuff like this, you also want to turn off the power supply so there's no electricity running through the actual rig just when you're replacing parts, and plugging stuff into the power supply, just because you don't want to short circuit anything. These will still hold little amounts of energy or electricity, and sometimes you can short circuit it by doing that. So make sure you turn off your power supply, even unplug it at the wall if you want. However, let's give it a whirl and see if it's working now. So it seems to turn on. Are we getting anything on the screen? Good. Okay. So that's all checked off the list. So we've got everything running. Now previously, as I did say, it would just spin up the fans and then turn off. This was actually after we had the power supply problem where it wouldn't display the power on the miner. And we've obviously been going through this whole process, cleaning everything out. I don't think it was anything to do with the dust on the actual motherboard or near the CPU. I definitely think it was probably that was due to incorrect power placement, as in we didn't actually set the pins in properly, I believe, but that ended up making us take it all apart and put it back together. Normally we'd have it on a rig up at the top so we could actually mine and film on it. However, let's test this out on a mining program and let's see how we get on. Okay, so we've got it started up. This is our last try. I believe we're going to have the same problem where the device isn't going to show up. So let's just quickly remedy that and go to Device Manager just to check it first before we even look at mining. Let's get up Device Manager. Now, surprisingly, this runs pretty slow. I just realized now as I was thinking about it, don't do this, but don't put the CPU on top of this. Give some airflow under it. Because we're only turning it on for a couple of seconds, it doesn't really matter. But make sure you have airflow under your CPU, because there's going to be heat coming down from under that, and I'm sure that that table is very hot, so don't do that. But also, you know, we're doing it for testing reasons, and it's pretty much fine like there, just for a couple of minutes whilst we're testing, because we're turning it on and off, so the heat's not really going to be that much of a problem when it comes to that. As you can see here, we're having the same problem. It's not actually showing up, and then it does that. So I'm wondering if that's part of the problem, but I know that that's happened loads of times where it just reboots up the graphics onto it, so it recognizes the card, and that's why it shuts down the graphics and loads them back on. I think it's to do with that, and I don't know what it would be using. It might be using the integrated graphics just to boot up and then apply the graphics to that card. I'm not really sure about that. Now, I'm not a technical computer whiz or anything, I just know about crypto mining, but most of this stuff that I've learned has obviously come from crypto mining in regards to computers. So we're going through a whole troubleshooting process here. So this is the miner file. Let's just give this one a whirl as well. Yes, this is our final try. If it doesn't show the power here, then I'm pretty much stuck on what to do. And as I said in the comments, if you ever had this problem, please let me know. Zero power, that is not good, that is awful. Zero power, it's definitely something to do. I don't know why the 1080 Ti reads. I don't know why the 4060 and the 1050 doesn't read. I would have no clue how to actually solve this. It's nothing to do with the miner program. I've already checked that out. I've had it run on different rigs, so it's nothing to do with the miner program. I just don't have a clue why it's not displaying the power, because it does this for every miner program as well, not just on BZ miner, but LOL miner and all the other miners. I don't know why the power isn't showing up, but it is showing up for the 1080 Ti. So if anyone's got any suggestions on what I can do with this to actually make it work, is it something to do with the motherboard in the BIOS that I haven't checked out, any settings, why it's not registering the power? Because we actually need the power to see how much we're actually using, because we could get it off the wall, but this is good to show and display efficiency for recording purposes, and that's what I kind of need it for. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's been a long one, but we obviously didn't get the problem sorted out. As I said, leave a comment below if you can actually help me out. That'd be great. I don't have a clue what's going on here. Maybe it's a problem to do with the power supply not reading or something like that. But for now, we're just going to have it at 0 watts. So free mining, basically, at 0 watts. That's great. So efficiency right there, as you can see, is infinity efficiency, obviously, because 0 power hash rate. Like the video, subscribe, do all that good stuff. This has been a total fail, but I'm going to upload it anyway. So like the video and subscribe. So last ditch attempt, that was just after we told you to subscribe. We're just in the BIOS now. We're just doing a system extensive test. We're going to go through that. Hopefully we get something that's not passed here and something to do with the PCIe. Maybe not drawing data properly. Obviously it's drawing it for the 1080 Ti, but I don't really actually know what is going on here. So hopefully we get this sorted out and we can actually start testing out our 4060 in terms of the power. The reason that we're not doing it on a rig is because, you know, I don't want to take the rig apart. And, you know, I want to test it on here before we put it onto a rig. And it's better to have this set up so that we can test GPUs on it instead of, you know, putting it on the rig and then testing from there. It's just way easier to put it on a test rig and then throw it up onto an actual rig. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like the video, subscribe.